of our forefathers to understand what's going to happen prophetically in these last days. We started the message of the barren woman and the two houses with the scripture reading from YHWH 54:1. And we remember, and now I'll read it to you again. Sing, O barren Ephraim, the unfaithful sister wife, to the patriarch Abba Yahweh, who did not bear. You did not bear, you were divorced, you were thrown out of the house of David, you were rejected. I bid you to return, you would not return, so I divorced you. If you would have returned, I wouldn't have divorced you. You did not travail with any children from me. You were too dirty, you were too filthy. I wouldn't let you bear the children of Yahweh, let alone the Mashiach. And yet in the last days, the children of the barren one, the children of the desolate one, Ephraim, Yisrael, the 10 tribes who had played the harlot, will be more.
That's right.
Oh, it doesn't say will be more. It says something else. Are more. Why? The word of Yahweh is what? Forever. The word of Yahweh is what? Leolam va'ed. So the children of Ephraim will some way, somehow become more than the Jewish people. Is that true? Absolutely is true.
Right now.
Let's talk about this. But let's talk about it from a physical point of view. Because if we spiritualize everything, we become so spiritual that we become no earthly good. Okay? So let's not talk about it from a spiritual aspect. Let's talk about it from a physical aspect. We have identified that the children of the married woman, which is Bet who? Daryl, Bet, Yehudah, the children of the married one, Yahweh's two wives, sister wives. Judah has less children than Ephraim. How does this match up in these end times? Now, don't miss this. I talk about this in my book, Sex and the Believer. And let me tell you something. All those who proudly and arrogantly don't read Sex and the Believer because they know everything in the book, you know nothing the way you ought to know. That's just the beginning of what you ought to know. As a matter of fact, Wilbur's question that you asked me earlier was answered in that book, and many other questions. Okay? So we ought to be, everybody listening to the sound of my voice ought to have at least several copies of Sex and the Believer, not only for themselves, but also for others to share the truth with. Because remember what I told you earlier today. If we don't do those things, the things that concern human sexuality correctly, what happens is we learn our ways from the world, or we learn our ways from religion. And the church will condemn you and throw you out when Yahweh will bless you for what you're following Torah. So a perfect example of what Wilbur was talking about before. A man is already married, but he finds a woman, he humbles the woman, he marries her. Hey, congratulations, you now have another wife. In the church, they'll throw you out and send you for 10 years of counseling. If you're lucky, you might wind up in Rikers Island. Okay? Or in Alcatraz. Rebbe Rivka, if you would, please. Yes, more of these Moshe cookies. See if you can find me a few more. You follow me? We can't get our ideas about the word of Yahweh from religion or from what our ancestors did. Because your mother was a spiritual whore. She rebelled and she was unfaithful to Yahweh. So you're going to get your mores, your sexual mores from your mother? Because your mother today predominates the church. But she predominates something else. And what is a curse in the church through Ephraim propagating its idolatry and harlotry against Yahweh, there's also another part of Ephraim, and I want to talk to you about that part of Ephraim today.
Okay.
That is in blessing and not in cursing. That is bearing more children than Jews and Christians combined. Can I hear a good amen?
Amen.
So Yahweh says there are, thank you, YHWH 54:1, the children of the desolate are more than the children of the married wife. We know who the children of the married wife are, Jewish Israel. How many Jewish people are there in the world today? Approximately 16 million, approximately, between 14 and 16 million. The married woman isn't doing too good when it comes to producing children. Don't talk to me about saved. That don't mean children, Brother Moshe. That's talking about God fearing saved and born again. Born again. All right? No, it's not. You can't be born again until you're born the first time. So in order to be born again, you have to be born physically. Then you could be born spiritually. So this is talking about sexualmente. This is talking about sperm. offspring, children. Because in order to be born again, you have to be a physical human being. Would you agree? Worms and ravioli pieces in a can don't get born again. You have to be a human being to be born again. So if you have to be born again, you have to be born the first time. So the children of the married wife are the Jewish people. Yahweh preserved the Jewish people not to be fruitful and multiply, but to bear him one, the Holy One of Israel, that lamp, 1 Kings 11, that lamp that was preserved in the house of David for the light of the world. Yochanan 8:12. Yeshua said, I am the light of the world. He that follows me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. Can I hear a good amen?
Amen.
Yehuda went not only into some of the idolatry that Ephraim, because we just read that earlier in Yirmiyahu. Where was it, Darrell? 3, 7, and 8.
Yep.
She saw it and did nothing to correct her behavior.
Amen.
She saw that Ephraim never returned.
Amen.
See, Ephraim's crime was not rebelling and committing spiritual whoredom against Yahweh. Ephraim's greater crime was never making teshuvah or shuvah, never returning and making teshuvah. Mm-hmm. So did Yahweh put up with that foolishness forever? The Christian church talks about the eternal, unchangeable grace of gold. Yeah, Yahweh has grace, but Yahweh comes to a point when the smoke comes out of his ears.
Exactly.
Because his name is jealous. Read it in the Torah. Jealousy is not one of his characters. It's not an adjective. His name is jealous. The word of Yahweh says. His name is jealous. And when he sees either of his two wives playing the hua, he will get rid of them. But yet he'll preserve the ones he needs to preserve to work out his purposes and his higher purposes in the earth.
Amen.
Can I hear a good amen?
Amen.
So let's talk about the Jewish people who are married to Yahweh and are not having any intimacy with Yahweh, because when you reject the king of Israel, you have your own righteousness. And we know according to Isaiah 64:4, all of our righteousness is as filthy shmates. The Hebrew word is menstrual cloth. So the Jewish people go, oh, rejoice, 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 rejoice. And Yahweh says, oh, I don't want to say what Yahweh says because it's too vulgar.
Yeah.
Yahweh says menstrual cloths. Jewish people say our own righteousness apart from Yeshua. Yahweh says not dust cloths, menstrual cloths. That's the word. All of our righteousness is as filthy menstrual cloths. So Judah remains married to Yahweh, praise Yahweh, because he had to keep that light on so that Yeshua would come and find the light on. Okay? Motel Yerushalayim. Yahweh had to keep the light on in Motel Yerushalayim. You remember that commercial? The light's always going to be on at Motel 6. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. Yehuda went into a form of Catholicism. Let's be honest. Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. Let's be honest. What did the Jewish people do? Not only not only did they reject Mashiach ben David, the son of Yahweh, they went into a form of self-imposed Catholicism. Came along a Rebbe in the Middle Ages, and he said, I got bad news. Rebbe, sag mir, what's the bad news? No more sex. Huh? No more sex. Huh? Say it again now. ¿Por qué? Because the Christian community is looking for any excuse to destroy the Jewish people. And they consider your polygamy, because the Jewish people always had many wives. Jewish people always had more than one wife. But when the Christians are like asexual, you know what asexual is, right?
Not at all.
It's not the earlier form of bisexual or desexual. Asexual is without sex. So Rabbi Gershon, a middle-aged rabbi, said to the Jewish people, look, this is not good. Anytime we make the Christians angry, they have no wives because they follow the Pope, they're papists, they're Meshuggahs. All right, Yahweh says, pru urvu. That's the first mitzvah in the Torah. Did you know that? That's the first mitzvah. That's the first commandment in the Torah. Pru urvu. be fruitful and multiply. And along comes the Catholic